A very good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to the online trading webinar with myself, Giles Coughlin. First thing I say is I've just back from the dentist and I've got a bit of a numb side of my mouth. So if I sound a bit lispy and my words are a little bit slurred, it's because I've just come back from the dentist and had a filling. So glad to get the filling done, but my lips are a bit numb. So please excuse me if I'm not making complete sense all the time. Welcome to the futures part of the trading session. Hope everybody's doing well. We are seeing a breakout here right now on the 1 minute chart. You can just drop down and see here on the mini. You can just see this attempt at a breakout. Hello, Konstantinos. Very good to see you. Breaking out of these lows on volume. So just interesting area to watch here. We'll leave that now and get back into the outlook. Good morning, Konstantinos. Luke, good to see you. Ryan, Wissam, folks. Without further ado, right, let's get stuck into the session. So, yeah, good morning, Wissam. Hey, Ryan.
Just a bit of commentary from the Czech National Bank governor. Today's cut, very cautious. Policy will remain strict. And sticking with central banks, the Banxico's Heath says it is highly probable that Banxico will continue to lower its key rates.
Folks, here's what we're looking at today. So the TPO shows you a neutral to a bearish bias. If you take a look at the value area low, value area high, you can see in the last hour, we've broken out of that value area and we're finding support around that 100 exponential moving average. So the bias is a sell bias. If we can get a bit stretched, maybe move to that pivot point, we could potentially look at a movement to the value area high and then back up to the value area low, back up to the value area high. But otherwise, we might get a bit of mean reversion as we head into the US Open. Otherwise, the sell bias remains in place. You see the point of control, value area low, clear breakout and trying to push lower now as we speak. Daily pivot point sits underneath as an obvious target. And we're opening sentiment with a bearish bias. Now, fundamentally, it's a different picture. The broad fundamentals are US-China trade talks due on May the 9th, positive for sentiment. The People's Bank of China cut interest rates overnight, and we've also got a 10 basis point interest rate cut and a 50 basis point reserve ratio requirement reduction, again, came in overnight. That is boosting liquidity and has been positive for sentiment this morning. That has faded now in the last sort of hour or so. Let me check out the headlines. Obviously, India, Pakistan, there has been a flare-up in tensions between the two nations with attacks being launched. And those Pakistani attacks obviously weaken sentiment. But the US-China trade talks is the major focus. That's what markets are focusing on. And the liquidity boost from the People's Bank of China. So the sort of broad sentiment is positive. And you can see gold and silver pulling back as sentiment is more positive. And the initial uptick in Brent crude and WTI has pulled back, and also that's on that liquidity boost from China has boosted sentiment for oil. That's just pulled back now with the worsening sentiment that's been happening over the last sort of 60 minutes, hour and a half. So the big news today is obviously we've got the Federal Reserve meeting at 7 o'clock UK time. So here's what to look for. Right. Hey, Najib. Here's what to look for. Expectations are the Fed's going to cut, not going to cut, it's going to keep interest rates the same. There's only like a 5% chance that they're going to cut, and there's only one analyst desk seeing a cut of 25 basis points. So the expectation really is for a 25 basis point stay, right? For markets to remain unchanged. No interest rate change is expected. Let me get that clear. Sorry for the confusion. No interest rate change expected today at all. Remember, there's no summary of economic projections today. So that's the so-called dot plot. And there's none of this. There's no sort of projecting what they see coming, etc. That's not on the table. And on top of that, the Fed have 2 more CPI prints before July and more jobs data, and they're going to have news on tariffs by July.
Continuing with Banxico's Heath, just say that inflation risk balance is still biased to the upside.
So for the Fed, there's no incentive to do anything tonight. So it's likely to be unchanged. A couple of tweets just to be aware of the pressures on the Fed. We know that Trump wants the Fed to cut rates. They're saying here, whereas interest rates are down, the slow-moving Fed should cut rates. So big pressure from Donald Trump on Powell and co. But this is interesting. This is what Nick Timirail said, that Fed officials agree that rate cuts aren't appropriate until they see concrete signs of slower spending and high joblessness. So there's still good activity in the US. And if you look at the labor market, we saw the interest rates rather going very nice, not inflation rate. Sorry, I'm just back from the dentist. My words is not quite right. The Fed are seeing a strong jobs market is still out there. ADP jobs was still adding jobs in the private sector. Non-farm payroll still adding jobs in the US. 177,000 jobs added last month. So unemployment was low, below the Fed's expectations for this year anyway. So all of that just meant that the Fed aren't in any rush. But this is a key thing. Differences are flowing over how confident officials can be that price increase from tariffs and the shortage will be temporary. This is a bit of uncertainty about the extent of inflation. Now, if you take a look here at the Truflation Index, you can see that the Truflation Index is showing that inflation is coming down. But the Fed are obviously unsure about what kind of impact inflation is going to be had by the tariffs. So that's the uncertainty. So could that prompt an early interest rate cut? Possibly. And if they do, you'd expect S&P 500 to gain. You'd expect euro dollar to gain sharply. Okay. So I'm going to be hanging around, hopefully coming back for that meeting, and I'm going to be looking at what the price action is doing. So that's the big outlook. Now, typically on days like this with the Fed meeting, it can mean that markets are a bit cagey, but there's a little bit of movement here already, and you can see markets continue to sell off. Key things to note from the Globex open inventory is positive. In the near term, we've had sellers, trap all those buyers. The near term is down, and you've got some sellers trapped down here at the weekly point of control. So this weekly point of control is a big area, 5625. So sellers, and I'll be looking for a little bounce in that 5625, also value area low for the week. All right, so buyers, trap sellers here. So you could potentially see a move down here, then a bounce at that 5625. So I'll be looking very carefully at that 5625 region, which you can see is down here. And I've marked that green area here. And you can see sellers, big supply area. So if we move down to here, 5625.
Update from the EU via Bloomberg is set to announce provisional list of tariffs against US Thursday. New EU tariffs to be enforced if trade talks with the US fail. So EU there to announce provisional list of tariffs against US Thursday. The new tariffs to be enforced if trade talks with the US fail.
Nadia, I'm just bringing to our attention Paul Tudor Jones, very well-known, famous hedge fund manager, saying that even if trade tensions ease, the combination of elevated tariffs and interest rates could lead to new market lows. That's fair enough, isn't it? So I've heard the basic argument goes like this, is no matter what happens, tariffs are either going to be here and they're going to be higher than they were. So tariffs are coming. And that's kind of a pressure on equity markets. Yeah.
Just making you aware of that headline there by Bloomberg does echo remarks we did hear from EU Trade Chief Šefčovič, who did say that the European Commission will announce on Thursday preparatory steps on next countermeasures to US tariffs.
And you can see earlier in the session, you see this here, see the delta, that sharp drop lower, pointing lower. We had a pull back to this area here with those trap buyers, and that was a key area for shorts. Okay. So still looking for shorts, although notice here, we've now fallen into a value area.
Update regarding the CMB governor. So there's no agreement if this was the last interest rate cut.
And you can see here, buyers getting trapped up there.
And regarding Banxico Heath, it says in the second half of the year, we will have to take monetary decisions with a little more caution.
I had a little go on my live accounts here with those sellers trapping those buyers here, and then was stopped out as it went. And then I tried to re-enter here as those sellers took out those buyers and didn't get filled. I then started to fiddle around trying to go with a breakout, but the seminar was
More from the CMB governor says lowering today, allowed by still restrictive rate level.
So what I'm looking for here is something to continue with this selling, and then potential a bounce in this 5625 region. So here you can see sellers trapping buyers here. So this now becomes a really important buy zone, sell zone. Okay, so sell zone here in line with the trend, and
Banks goes here, interest rate,
which is the point of control for a potential short, very quick scalp. Okay, so it'll be quick, be a scalp, and then out. All right, so nothing fantastical looking for here. And as it stands, what I'm looking for is pullbacks against trapped buyers, and then looking for buyers and then selling against them. Okay, so looking to sell in line with the momentum, and we'll obviously be looking for any clear opportunities to sell on the 1 minute chart from the open. Just noticing got a little bit of a value area here. Just want to have a quick check that these values are as we move lower. Yeah, nice value area, and then got another value area down here. All right, folks, so that's what I'm looking at. I'm just going to keep this open. I'm not going to be chatting much, but I will be looking for any short-term opportunities ahead of the open. Have we got any? Oh, you see, even there, you see you got buyers getting trapped here, buyers trapped here and here, sellers coming down, price underneath that second standard deviation. Quite stretched, but look, we're holding the other side of the second standard deviation, so let's see what happens there. Ideally, I want some kind of pullback, and then looking for sellers to rejoin this move. All right, folks, that is just seeing if I think that's it. Everything's covered now. I'm just going to keep a careful eye on the slope of the cumulative delta. At the moment, you see we're dropping lower, had some big sellers coming in here, and now it's normal to find a little bit of relief here. And you can see buyers look pushing above that second standard deviation now, and buyers look trapping those sellers here. So just coming into the open, opportunity for a short-term recovery area. So let's see what happens. That's a good point you make there, Nadja. I think that's the argument. No matter what, higher tariffs are coming. So okay, I'm closing them out because you can sellers see are trying to trap these buyers now. And that's the direction I would feel much happier to go in. All right, you see sellers kind of come in now. If they can trap those buyers, then you're back down, you're back lower again. So let's see, got a couple of minutes to the open. Let's see if we get a little bit of selling. All right, take a little short there.
Just making your way out of remarks now seen from the US VP, Vance, says US and Europe on the same team.
Okay, just exiting that before the open. Okay, here we go. So Okay, let's have a go. Okay, coming up to the 1 minute. So we're looking for selling in line with momentum. Let's see what we can get here. Delta coming in negatively. The sellers trapping those buyers, but where are they up to? Up to the, let's have a look there. So let's see, might get a little, ooh, look at that. Right, that's tricky, isn't it? Let's just wait and see. Okay, so buyers coming in on the 1 minute now. Yeah, nice Najam. Okay, so okay, hit the first standard deviation. Okay, I'm happy to buy on a retest down at that level there.
Update from China's MOFCOM, they are willing to boost imports of finished products and tech.
Right. Got buyers trapping those sellers. If we can move back down there, I'm happy to buy off that. Okay.
More from the US VP Vance says security posture of the last 20 years not adequate for the next 20 years.
Okay, just taking that off quickly. Bit tricky. Buyers trap those sellers, had a little bounce. Now let's see. Okay, there's sellers there, so that could be a good area, but let's see. Buyers trapping those sellers.